It was the single biggest dump of celebrity nudes in history, a digital heist that exposed the most private moments of over 600 of the world's most famous women. Over 60 of Jennifer Lawrence's private shower selfies laid bare for the world. Kate Upton's honeymoon X-rated tapes with her husband, Justin Verlander. Dozens of explicit photos and videos from their hotel room. Ariana Grande, when she was just 16, a handful of topless selfies she sent to an ex-boyfriend at the time. Nearly 500 images and videos. The pictures surfaced in late summer 2014 and exploded across 4chan, Reddit, and image boards. They called it the fappening. But behind the chaos was precision, a plan already in motion. This is how a few guys from quiet American suburbs used a simple email scam to steal the most intimate videos of Hollywood's biggest stars. A year earlier, in the quiet suburbs of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, one man was building the trap that would make it all possible. In a bedroom with the blinds drawn, a man named Ryan Collins hasn't closed his laptop in 3 days. Coffee rings on the desk. A stack of hospital ID badges from the day job that says he's ordinary. This night is anything but ordinary. This is the night he goes big game hunting. For nearly 2 years, starting from 2012, he has been honing his craft in the shadows, running a cruel modeling scam on the side, preying on women, manipulating them into sending him their most private images. This dark hobby, however, is just a stepping stone. His method of choice was a classic phishing scam. He sends deceptive emails, appearing to be from Apple. On one monitor, Apple's official password reset page. On the other, Collins' perfect digital copy. Pixel for pixel, button for button. A fake iCloud login page that looks real enough to fool anyone. Even registering a convincing lookalike email address through a Romanian proxy, Apple Privacy Security, at iCloud.com. But he changes one crucial detail: the destination. On Apple's real page, entering your password sends it to their secure servers for verification. On his page, the verify button is a lie. It doesn't secure your account. It harvests your credentials, funneling them directly into an inbox he controls. It started with ordinary people, sending deceptive emails in order to trick them into revealing their passwords. With each successful hack, he grew bolder. His technique was now flawless. He decides to scale up operations and move on to bigger targets. And soon, it would fool Hollywood. He later calls it curiosity in court. It will become something else entirely. And it doesn't stop in Lancaster. The clone migrates. On an invite-only hacker message board hosted in Eastern Europe, a small archive titled iCloud Verify Kit.zip begins circulating. 600 miles west in the suburbs of Chicago, Edward Majurchik, 27 and still living with his parents, spends his nights surrounded by 2 monitors. He works in IT, tech by day and by night. He spends his time swapping phishing kits, and that's where he finds it. Being shared on a private board, he recognizes its potential immediately. He knows this is his ticket to the big leagues, but he also knows he needs a way in, a way to make his targets believe they're under attack. That's when he stumbles upon the perfect opportunity. It's late 2013, early 2014. Every news outlet is running scaremongering campaigns about Russian cyber attacks, state-sponsored hackers, stolen data. It's on every front page. People are scared. Majurchik seizes on this fear and crafts his subject lines accordingly. Unauthorized sign-in detected from Moscow. The link looks safe. They click. And when they did, they landed on his fake page. Their passwords never reached Apple. They went straight to him. And one stolen password meant everything. iCloud backups, photo streams, iMessage attachments, private videos, the entire Snapchat stash. One key unlocked the entire digital life behind a celebrity's phone. You see, back then in 2014, Apple's system made this frighteningly easy and invisible for the attacker. If you had valid login credentials, you could trigger a full restore from iCloud, and the system treated it like a normal backup session. No notification, no confirmation on the victim's device. To the owner, everything looked exactly as it should, but somewhere in Chicago, their entire life was already being downloaded. According to filings, Majurchik's campaign targeted at least 300 accounts, including 30+ belonging to celebrities. Then others joined the supply chain. Christopher Brannon, a technology coordinator for a Virginia high school, and George Garofano, a soft-spoken grad student from Connecticut, developed automated scripts, credential stuffing, and API brute force approaches that took one stolen password and fanned it into dozens of related logins. Court reports suggest he accessed full iCloud backups for more than 200 victims. Once inside, there's a decision: siphon a few things, stay quiet, or take all of it. Most decided to take all. They trigger restores that pour gigabytes to their drives, 23 gigabytes from one backup, while Netflix plays in the background, 1,789 photos and 94 videos from another. Jennifer Lawrence's account falls after nearly 2,000 tries. Her password? Nashville, 2012. Kirsten Dunst was next. Her password was rumored to be MPLS 1982. Minneapolis plus her birth year. Ariana Grande's was Butterfly 2011, a reference to her favorite Mariah Carey album and the year she got her first big break in Hollywood. Kate Upton's was Detroit 1987, her hometown and her birth year. For months, the Hall lived underground. They rate, catalog, and trade their black market inventory in private channels with an anonymous alias. Some transactions went for a few $100s, others for trades, one celebrity's archive in exchange for another. But in every network, there's always one node willing to burn it all for attention. August 31st, 2014. It starts with 10 words on a fringe board and a blurred thumbnail. I have hundreds of celebrity nudes. Bitcoin welcome. Samples inside. At first, no one cared. Posts like that were everywhere, cheap scams phishing for crypto. But something was off. Reverse image search came up empty. Within minutes, tips started rolling in. Then, a mega.nz folder containing 43 uncensored images dropped. It was enough to prove the rumors true. This was the moment a hidden market for stolen explicit celebrity photos just spilled into public view. Mirrors of the original files spread in minutes, 100 reposts, then 1,000. And suddenly, it's not just hackers passing stolen selfies, it's everyone. The files escaped the shadows and leaped to mainstream platforms that weren't built for this. Subreddits bloom overnight, dedicated to cataloging new drops. Within 24 hours, Reddit's r/thefappening attracts more than 100,000 subscribers. Users there compile victim lists, color-coded by celebrity status. By day 2, the thread quadruples in size. Moderators delete it, but it does little to mitigate the disaster. Spin-offs form instantly. r/thefappening 2, Best of the Fappening. By now, everyone knows. Students gather between classes refreshing megathreads, whispering about which set just dropped. Office workers scroll Reddit on their lunch breaks, glancing at censored clips between spreadsheets. Good Morning America, NBC, CNN, all covered the iCloud leak, warning viewers while flashing censored thumbnails on screen. Google reports an overnight 671% spike in searches for Jennifer Lawrence. Within a week, major porn sites log record traffic for fappening or iCloud leaks. For the people in the photos, the consequences arrive like a car crash. A phone vibrating itself across a table. Voicemail from an agent, breathless. Don't go online. Do not go online. Jennifer Lawrence reads the message, slides open Twitter, and sees her name exploding across the feed. Besides private screenshots, she's never shown another soul. Jennifer stares at her reflection in the black screen of her phone. The last moment before the noise begins. In the next 48 hours, she cancels press, pulls out of scheduled interviews, and locks down every account she's ever used. In a 2014 Vanity Fair interview, she says, "It's not a scandal, it's a sex crime." She adds, "Anybody who looked at those pictures is perpetuating a sexual offense. I felt like a piece of meat being passed around for profit." Her publicist describes that week as pure hell. 847 missed calls, panic attacks, and days without sleep. She wasn't alone. Kate Upton's phone backs up the same night. Nearly 400 photos and several private videos leak from her iCloud, including images taken by her partner, baseball star Justin Verlander. They're 30,000 feet in the air, mid-flight, when the story breaks. Kate Upton's lawyer later releases a statement calling the leak an outrageous violation of privacy, vowing to pursue anyone who shared or hosted the images. Victoria Justice posts first, trying to extinguish rumors before they ignite. "These so-called nudes of me are fake, people. Let me nip this in the bud right now." Pun intended. Kirsten Dunst tweets just 3 words. "Thank you, iCloud." Sarcasm that becomes a headline. Actress Mary Elizabeth Winstead writes, "To those of you looking at photos I took with my husband years ago, in the privacy of our home, hope you feel great about yourselves. The next day, TMZ calls it the fappening. What began as a handful of phishing emails in a Pennsylvania basement was now an uncontrollable digital contagion, the first mass collapse of celebrity privacy. And it was already a federal matter. The FBI's cyber squad in Los Angeles got the call before sunrise on September 1st, activated by a flood of reports from victims' attorneys and Apple itself. The hunt was on. And as the new investigation began, the digital forensics teams dug deeper. They found something that changed the case from a high-profile scandal to a federal emergency. A file of a victim taken from when she was underage. And it turned the entire internet into a crime scene, transforming every host, sharer, and consumer of those files into a potential felon. Within hours of the first public dump, they're already mapping out the digital battlefield. IP addresses, timestamps, file hashes, every clue pinned to a wall in their war room. The internet may look like chaos from above, but underneath it's a ledger. Every email hops through servers that stamp it with received lines and X-originating details. Every download leaves a fingerprint in an access log. Every iCloud restore writes a timestamp that matches something somewhere else. They start with what's public, the mega accounts hosting the leaks, the Bitcoin wallet collecting tips before vanishing into mixers. They subpoena hosting providers for access logs, Apple for device restores, Google for login metadata and draft saves. They overlay it all, hundreds of data points, and wait for a human mistake to raise its hand. It doesn't take long. One IP address appears in two places it shouldn't, once in the path of a phishing email sent to an actress, and again in Apple's logs for her iCloud restore. It isn't Tor or some bulletproof offshore proxy, it's a Comcast residential line in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. A subpoena returns a name, Ryan Collins. As 2014 drew to a close, the FBI were closing in on the man behind one of the largest celebrity hacks in history. On the early morning of October 7, 2014, a year after this all began, the sun hasn't risen yet when two unmarked SUVs pull up to the quiet suburban streets of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Agents step out and move swiftly to the front door. One knocks firmly, while the others take up positions around the perimeter. The neighborhood is still asleep. Collins answers in pajamas and glasses. He's calm, as he's shown the search warrant, and leads them inside. Agents move through the living room, and down in the basement office, his laptop is still open, logged in, mid-session. A folder labeled iCloud Backups glows on the desktop. An agent freezes, then gives a quiet nod to his partner. This is it, the smoking gun they needed. Drives, phones, routers, everything goes into evidence bags. Agents recover Collins's devices and accounts tied to unauthorized access of more than 100 exposed iCloud accounts. He later pleads guilty to one felony count under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act and receives 18 months in federal prison. But the trail of digital breadcrumbs didn't end with Collins. Investigators knew there was another piece to this complex puzzle. A copy of the same HTML that started in Collins' basement leads agents west. The same source code, but it points to a Gmail inbox in Chicago. It's summer 2015. Another search warrant. Another quiet residential block. Agents arrest Edward Majurczyk. The FBI finds hundreds of iCloud credentials and custom phishing scripts on his computer. His inbox holds passwords belonging to actresses, musicians, agents, all lured by forged Apple security emails. Court filings and a later sentencing memo describe a broad phishing campaign that compromised over 300 accounts. In January 2017, a federal judge calls the scheme abhorrent, sentencing him to 9 months in prison, plus restitution and mandatory counseling. Within months, the Bureau rounds up the last of them. In Connecticut, agents trace another strain of the same campaign to George Garofano, who'd accessed over 200 iCloud accounts through cloned Apple login pages. Down in Virginia, investigators close in on Christopher Brannon. Both men plead guilty. Garofano is sentenced to 8 months in prison and supervised release. Brannon receives 34 months in mandatory sex offender registration because his collection included underage material. When the headlines fade and the mugshots disappear, all eyes turn to Cupertino. Apple finds itself in the crosshairs. Under pressure, CEO Tim Cook steps before CNBC's cameras and draws a clear line. iCloud wasn't breached, and narrowly speaking, he was right. This wasn't a sophisticated espionage operation. There was no evidence that Apple's servers themselves were compromised. It took the cunning of men like Ryan Collins, Edward Majercik, and George Garofano, who, from their homes, engineered a widespread phishing campaign that became a brutal watershed moment for not only celebrities, but for all of America. And to this day, the individual who first detonated the private collections into a public torrent on August 31st was never publicly identified.